Francis de Sales, a man of inspired common sense. My dear brothers and sisters, Elizabeth Stopp once described the broad appeal of St. Francis de Sales as inspired common sense. That phrase captures the essence of his spirituality, his theology, and above all, his pastoral heart. Today, let us explore how this inspired common sense shaped his understanding of the human heart, his teachings, his pastoral approach, and why it still speaks powerfully to us today. The first point for our reflection today: what do we mean by inspired common sense? First, we must understand what common sense meant for St. Francis de Sales. It's a way of living faith. For St. Francis de Sales, common sense was not mere practicality, but a system of principles for daily living. His teachings were born not from abstract theology, but from experience, guiding souls, addressing real struggles, and translating doctrine into daily life. Secondly, balance of heart and mind. Father Jacques Leclerc rightly noted that his genius lay in equilibrium, holding together virtue and judgment, faith and reason, doctrine and experience. His common sense was simply the wisdom of a heart rooted in God and attentive to human condition. The second point for reflection today is the roots of his wisdom. First of all, a rich formation. As a young nobleman, Francis studied both civil and canon law, along with theology. His education gave him breadth, while prayer and spiritual exercises gave him depth. Secondly, the crisis of despair. As a student in Paris, he endured a severe crisis over predestination, fearing that he was condemned. By surrendering completely to God's mercy, he found peace. This experience left him compassionate toward those burdened by fear, always guiding them with gentleness and hope. Thirdly, mission in Chablais. His pastoral genius shone during his mission in Chablais, where he worked to win back Calvinists to Catholic faith. He avoided harsh polemics and instead reached people with clarity, kindness, and patience. His method was simple: speak the truth with love. The third point for reflection today is his teachings, wisdom for ordinary life. First of all, the universal call to holiness. Francis de Sales insisted that holiness was not the privilege of monks or nuns, but the call of every Christian. Long before Vatican II reaffirmed this truth, he declared that devotion is possible for all: parents, workers, merchants, rulers, and so on. Secondly, introduction to devout life. His famous book brought holiness into homes, shops, and marketplaces. It was written not for scholars but for ordinary Christians, offering practical steps to live faithfully in the midst of daily duties. Thirdly, realistic and gentle. He adapted spiritual practices to each person's circumstances. No rigid rules, no harsh demands, just practical guidance suited to each soul. He emphasized the little virtues like patience, humility, gentleness, believing that small acts of love build a holy life. Fourthly, balance and moderation. Avoid extremes. He taught, do not be harsh, but do not be lax. Walk the middle path, steady and faithful. Sixthly, prudence and discernment. He urged, care in choosing spiritual guides, insisting they must be wise, charitable, and prudent. For him, spiritual direction was not a luxury but a necessity for growth. The fourth point for reflection today is his pastoral approach, a gentle shepherd. First of all, the gentleman saint. Francis de Sales earned this title because of his kindness. Even with opponents, he responded with patience and gentleness. He believed one catches more flies with a spoonful of honey than with a barrel full of vinegar. Secondly, master of communication. Whether addressing nobles or peasants, the educated or the simple, he adapted his style to reach hearts. He avoided lofty language and chose clear, concrete examples. Thirdly, guiding hearts. His spiritual direction was deeply personal. He saw it not as imposing rules, but as expanding the heart's capacity for God. He always met people where they were, helping them to take the next step forward. Fourthly, leadership through values. His leadership was not about authority or power, but about inspiring others to live values, truth, love, and virtue. He led by example, teaching through gentleness what it meant to live in union with God. The fifth point for reflection today is why his wisdom still matters. First of all, timeless spirituality. His writings remain fresh because they deal with the human heart. Fear, discouragement, the longing for meaning, these have not changed. His voice reassures us that God's love is greater than our weakness. Secondly, a model for priests and leaders. He reminds priests and spiritual leaders that our task is not just to preach, but to listen, to guide, and to walk with people patiently. His own life was a balance of prayer, study, and tireless pastoral care. Thirdly, a compass for our times. In a world of extremes, noise, and anxiety, his emphasis on balance, moderation, and gentleness is more needed than ever. His inspired common sense calls us back to what truly matters: trust in God, kindness to others, and fidelity in small things. To conclude, a legacy of gentle wisdom. Dear friends, St. Francis de Sales was indeed a man of inspired common sense. He blended deep spirituality with practical wisdom. He made holiness accessible, not by lowering the bar, but by showing that God meets us where we are and lifts us step by step. As we reflect on his life, let us take to heart his great lesson. Holiness is not beyond our reach. It is found in daily life through patience, through gentleness, through the faithful practice of little virtues. May we, like him, live with balance and compassion. May we speak with kindness, guide with wisdom, and always trust in God's mercy. And may our lives, like his, radiate the inspired common sense of the gospel, simple, practical, and full of love. The final word. St. Francis de Sales once said, "Have patience with all things, but first of all with yourself." If we take this to heart, we will discover that the path of holiness is not far away. It begins right here, in the ordinary moments of our daily lives. Live Jesus.